Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to tonight's debate. My name is Laura Betteridge, and I am the chairperson, and Oliver Hawkins is the timekeeper. This debate will be judged by a panel of 3 adjudicators, who are Ms. Boyd-Turner, Mr. Barnett, and Ms. Bra. The topic of this debate is that Banksy is a Da Vinci of his time. The affirmative team seated to my right is from Norwood International High School. The negative team seated to my left is from Concordia College. The speaking time for this debate is 6 minutes, with a double bell at the end of your speaking time. A warning bell will ring once at 5 minutes. A continuous bell will ring 30 seconds after the final bell. Please switch off your mobile phones and other electronic devices. I declare this debate open. I call upon the first affirmative speaker, Nanako Shoji.
Good evening, Chairperson, ladies and gentlemen. The topic for our debate is that Banksy is Da Vinci of his time. We define this to refer to the artist Banksy, who is a dominant England-based street artist, political activist, and film director, whose real name and identity are confirmed. In this context, Da Vinci serves as eponym expressed through comparative allusion to the Italian polymath of High Renaissance, Leonardo da Vinci, who was active between 1452 and 1519 primarily as a painter. However, as explained by Heidenreich in 2020 biography, Da Vinci is widely regarded to have been a genius who epitomized the Renaissance ideal, with his works providing a significant cultural and artistic contribution to society and later generations of artists. For this topic, of his time refers to the era in which Banksy has been an active artist, which is since the 1990s to the present day. Therefore, we interpret this topic to mean that the underground artist Banksy, his work share enough parallels in terms of artistry, innovation, influence, and impact on society to Da Vinci and his works for him to be comparatively acknowledged as Da Vinci of his time, which is our time. We wholeheartedly believe this statement is true. Today, as a first speaker, I will be discussing both artists as polymath and experts in their craft. Our second speaker, Laura, will be talking about how both artists have provided meaningful social commentary through their works and how the mystique surrounding them adds to their universal appeal. Our third speaker, Yang, will rebut and sum up her case. This evening, I'm going to discuss 2 points. My first point is just like Da Vinci, Banksy demonstrates polymathic genius through his range across disciplines. A polymath is someone whose knowledge and work spans many different subjects. Da Vinci's genius lay in uniting art with science. While he mastered painting with works like the Mona Lisa, he also produced important anatomical drawings and engineering sketches according to Cabra's 2007 book, The Science of Leonardo. Banksy is best known for his stencil street art, like his famous works, Girl with the Balloon, Child Soldier, and Kissing Coppers, which have popped up all over the globe from his hometown in Bristol to LA, the West Bank of Palestine. But like Da Vinci, Banksy is much more than an artist. According to the BBC podcast series, Who is Banksy? Banksy directed the Oscar-nominated film Exit through the gift shop. He secretly installed works in major museums and has staged auction interventions like Love is in the Bin, where a ray-framed copy of Girl with the Balloon began to self-destruct via a shredding mechanism hidden in its frame live at auction. Auction house Sotheby's described this as the first artwork in history to have been created live during an auction. Banksy was one of the first artists to use the pop-up gallery format. He is a notorious prankster. He also published books and uses his art to fundraise for refugees and the NHS, with art brokers stating, quote, that in the last 20 years, Banksy has raised almost £30 million for charity, end quote. Banksy also excels in immersive installations. He opened a fully functioning theme park, Disneyland, in 2015. According to The Guardian's Stephen Morris, the quote, family-friendly amusement park, unsuitable for children, celebrated the failure of capitalism, end quote. It featured attractions like miniature golf, complete with oil spill and works from 58 other artists handpicked by Banksy, Mark Brown from the Guardian archive stated that Disneyland received 150,000 visitors in the 5-week period it was open, end quote. And after it closed, Banksy repurposed materials from the project to be made into shelters for refugees in the colony jungle. Therefore, Da Vinci and Banksy both embody the role of the artist as a polymath. Da Vinci's canvas was the Renaissance purger of artists, of science and art uniting painting, sketching, engineering, and invention. Banksy's canvas is the 21st century collage of art, performance, installations, film, activism, politics, media, and spectacle. Now to my second point. Both Da Vinci and Banksy revolutionized their crafts and reshaped the language of art in their lifetimes. According to the art historian Martin Kemp, Da Vinci was responsible for the widespread use of technique called sfumato, which gave the Mona Lisa her unrivaled sense of depth, a technique that is still used today. 5 centuries later, Banksy has transformed graffiti from nuisance vandalism into a globally respected art by perfecting the use of stencils to produce works of striking clarity at speed while maintaining detail and nuance. Like Da Vinci, Banksy has also pushed past the craft that made him famous into visual trickery, layered perspectives, and prop integration to create impactful 3-dimensional scenes. In his 2020 work, A Tube, painted during COVID lockdowns, a stencil of elderly woman appears to sneeze with such an impact, and she drops her walking stick, shoots out her false teeth, and rocks the houses on the 22-degree slope of Bell Street, bristle off their foundations. Banksy doesn't just spray walls. He orchestrates striking, complex mixed media phenomena, redefining what art can mean in the 21st century, which firmly cements him as the Da Vinci of our time. So, Chairperson and ladies and gentlemen, to conclude, the polymath Da Vinci and Banksy represent the peak of artistic genius of their respective ages. They have both expanded what art can be and what art can do. If Da Vinci embodied the genius of Renaissance, then Banksy, without question, is Da Vinci of our time. Thank you.
Call upon the first negative speaker, Kezia Cheng.
Good evening, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. The topic for tonight's debate is that Banksy is the Da Vinci of his time. We appreciate the affirmative team's definition, however, we would like to add extra recognition of all of Da Vinci's works. After all, he was not just a painter, but a scientist, polymath, engineer, and architect too, according to World History Encyclopedia. We, the negative team, firmly believe that this statement is entirely false. The affirmative team have tried to claim that Banksy is the Da Vinci of his time because they both blend art with another discipline. Whilst this may be true, a detail to note is that Banksy blended their art with political commentary and filmmaking, and Da Vinci blended his art with science, disciplines with very different impacts. Journalist Eva Amson writes of how Da Vinci's anatomical sketches and illustrations of his inventions show how he incorporated science into his art. Da Vinci's art was extremely innovative and literally inspired modern-day technology like bicycles, helicopters, and scuba gear, according to Kean University. Banksy's work, like film and media, like the first affirmative speaker has already mentioned, though provocative, does not reshape human understanding on anywhere near the same scale. This is why Banksy is not the Da Vinci of his time. Today, as first speaker, I'll be arguing that Banksy is not the Da Vinci of his time because the two, during their careers, performed completely different practices, both in general and in art specifically. Our second speaker will be arguing that Banksy is not the Da Vinci of his time because they both had different intentions, and that they're different in the sense that Banksy chooses to be anonymous whilst Da Vinci did not. Now to my points. My first point is that Banksy is not the Da Vinci of his time because the two differ vastly in their practices. According to the National Library of Medicine, Da Vinci didn't just specialize in art, but did groundbreaking research in sciences like neuroanatomy too. He invented the technique of pouring hot wax into a bull's brain to create a visible cast of its cerebral ventricles. Oxford University Press journalist William R. Thayer names Da Vinci a pioneer in science. According to Britannica Encyclopedia, he was frequently consulted as a technical advisor in the fields of architecture, fortifications, and military matters, serving as a hydraulic and mechanical engineer. He conceptually invented dozens of contraptions never thought of before, such as, hold on to your seats, ladies and gentlemen, the anemometer, the flying machine, the aerial screw, the parachute, the 33-barrel organ, the armored car, the giant crossbow, the triple-barrel cannon, the colossus, a robotic knight. Yes, he really did invent a working robot in the 15th century, the self-propelled car, scuba gear, and a revolving bridge, according to the official Da Vinci inventions page. A journal by Kean University writes that without Da Vinci's discoveries, we would not have been able to engineer such effective technologies like bicycles, aircrafts, or diving suits, things that we all use in everyday life. Banksy, on the other hand, is mainly constricted to politicized street art. A thesis from Louisiana State University critically analyzes Banksy's graffiti, which uses stenciling to make the print quickly reproducible, putting him within a long line of existing artists combining political satire and artistic media commentary. So whilst Banksy and Da Vinci both dabble in the arts, the actual practices they undertook were extremely different, to say the least. Da Vinci chose to take his time with his work, conceptualizing influential engineering and neuroscience ideas, whilst Banksy chooses to use stencils to produce quick art, focusing on the field of political commentary instead. This is why Banksy is not the Da Vinci of his time. My second point is that Da Vinci artistically innovated his own ideas, whilst Banksy uses already established art mediums. According to Britannica Encyclopedia, Da Vinci created many of his own artistic techniques, like sfumato, whilst Banksy uses stenciling, which Britannica writes as having existed over 37,000 years ago. Moreover, the National Library of Medicine commented on how Da Vinci's method of dissecting corpses and studying anatomy, resulting in extraordinary accuracy of human form in his illustrations, was part of what made him so unique, as people during the medieval era were still a little scared to break away from the old ways of abiding to religious dogma, according to World History Encyclopedia. On the contrary, Banksy used this already established medium to communicate political messages that they wanted to communicate. Banksy does not meet Da Vinci's level of artistic innovation or scientific incorporation, and he does not need to, as they both do different things anyway. This is why Banksy is not the Da Vinci of his time. In the end, yes, Banksy is culturally relevant and artistically brilliant, but calling him the Da Vinci of his time? That's taking the comparison way too far. Banksy's clever political commentary has given him his own unique place in culture, but this does not mean he can equate to Da Vinci's untouchable legacy. Would you call a stenciled girl on a brick wall the literal Mona Lisa? So, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, this is why Banksy is not the Da Vinci of his time. Thank you.
I call upon the second affirmative speaker, Lara Abdelaziz.
Good evening, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. The topic of our debate is that Banksy is the Da Vinci of his time. We, the affirmative team, wholeheartedly believe that this statement is true. Before I present my case, I will point out the flaws in the negative's arguments. The first speaker from the negative team has stated that Da Vinci was an inventor and that Banksy cannot be compared to him because he has made no contributions to the field. Da Vinci absolutely made extraordinary scientific observations, but most of them were not published or shaped widely during his lifetime, meaning they had little direct impact on the development of science in his era. Historian Martin Kemp, author of Leonardo da Vinci, The Marvelous Works of Nature and Man, 2011, stated that he was a scientist in private but not in public. Da Vinci was a genius who anticipated modern science, but because his ideas stayed hidden in notebooks, his scientific contributions only became influential centuries later. With the contextual scope of this debate being Banksy's lifetime, this point is redundant. The first speaker has also mentioned, the first speaker from the negative team has also mentioned that Banksy lacks technical innovation and skills across mediums. They are wrong because Banksy has expanded street art into performance, film, and installation. In addition to the points made by our first speaker regarding his polymathy and technical skills, Banksy literally painted a live elephant for his LA Barely Legal exhibit to make the point, quote, "There's an elephant in the room, there's a problem we never talk about, the fact is that life is not getting any fairer," end quote. Banksy constantly fuses sculpture, installation, and theater in surprising ways. He may not be an engineer, but this demonstrates innovation, imagination, and technical skills compared to Leonardo's multidisciplinary approach. Our first speaker, Nanako, has already explained that both Da Vinci and Banksy are considered polymaths and revolutionized the techniques associated with their preferred medias. Today, I will be discussing how both artists have provided their audiences with valuable social commentary on their respective times and how the mystique surrounding them adds to universal appeal. My first point is both of these artists convey insightful social commentary on their times while courageously challenging societal conventions, specifically regarding war. Leonardo da Vinci was considered a pacifist who expressed extreme animosity towards war. In the notebooks of Leonardo da Vinci Complete, he described war as bestial madness and the most bestial frenzy, a plague more disastrous to men than any other. As a military engineer in Milan and Rome, Da Vinci had field experience, but his art conveyed his true feelings. His writings, sketches, and the lost painting of the Battle of Anghiari illustrate the horrors of war with brutal detail that provoke deep thoughts. Similarly, Banksy expresses his disdain for war through street art like Napalm 2004, which links Vietnam War imagery with capitalist icons, Mickey Mouse, and Ronald McDonald, encouraging viewers to consider who profits from war. His commentary extends beyond street art into installations such as the Waldorf Hotel in Bethlehem, Palestine, which ironically plays on the luxury connotation of the Waldorf Astoria hotel chain while being situated in an active war zone. Banksy built his hotel beside the West Bank barrier in 2017 to showcase what he calls the worst view in the world, symbolizing oppression and division. The Waldorf Hotel features over 20 artworks by Banksy that highlight the occupation of Palestine with humor and hope, including an artwork of a Palestinian protester and an Israeli soldier pillow fighting. Through his art, Banksy reveals the human cost of conflict and promotes visitors to reflect on the irony that wars continue while those in luxury choose to look away. My second and final point is that Banksy and Da Vinci's identities are interwoven, an element of mystique, which enhances their universal appeal in very similar ways. Da Vinci and Banksy have both established reputations for creating their works through secrecy and unconventional methods. Da Vinci incorporated hidden symbolism into his work and wrote his personal notes in mirror writing, a technique that fascinated audiences who uncovered them. According to Italian researcher Silvano Fianchetti, Da Vinci's famous Mona Lisa hides symbols that lead to identifying the model, dating the painting and certifying Da Vinci's interest in religion and mysticism. These symbols include the letter S in Mona Lisa's left eye, L in her right eye, and the number 72 under the bridge in the background of the painting. Banksy is equally mystifying. Not only has he refused to reveal his identity since the beginning of his career in the early 1990s, but he also makes unexpected appearances in disguise in unpredictable locations, which amplifies the public's sense of mystery. He is known but unknown. So, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, we, the affirmative team, believe that Banksy is undoubtedly the Da Vinci of his time. The artists are separated by time, but share so many similarities. The message of their works, the meaning audiences make in them, and the mystery that brings curiosity to society, inviting countless interpretations, while also promoting us to confront unfortunate realities, ensuring that their contributions remain connected to both art and social dialogue. Both artists inspire introspection and discussion on vital societal issues, highlighting art's role as a powerful tool for challenging the status quo. Thank you.
I call upon a second negative speaker, Sophie Lim.
Good evening, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. The topic for our debate is that Banksy is the Da Vinci of his time. We, the negative team, firmly believe that this statement is undoubtedly false. I'll begin by rebutting the opposition's arguments. The affirmative team has tried to argue that Banksy and Da Vinci have both provided social commentary during their times. However, the purpose of their works and commentary are completely different. Da Vinci's work follows his intent of expanding human knowledge by combining art with science. For example, his famous painting, the Mona Lisa, demonstrates his mastery of techniques and deep exploration of human emotions and mystery. This work captures the timeless ideas about grace, solitude, and the human experience. On the other hand, though, Banksy focuses more on pointing out problems in our current society through protests against things like consumerism, capitalism, and war. By just providing social commentary does not mean that someone is important. They've also tried to argue that Banksy is the Da Vinci of his time because they both have a universal appeal. However, this ignores the major difference in the depth of their impact. Da Vinci was not just an artist, he was also a scientist, inventor, and engineer, whose ideas changed the way people understood the world. His studies of anatomy, mathematics, and engineering shaped the progress of Western society in his time. Historian Martin Kemp has even described Da Vinci's genius as universal because his work stretched across so many fields. On the other hand, though, Banksy's appeal comes mainly from popular culture and political commentary. His art sparks debate, but it does not match the revolutionary contributions Da Vinci made in his time. Our first speaker has already explained that Da Vinci and Banksy are involved in different practices, making it outrageous to even compare the two. She also explained that Banksy bases his work off existing mediums, whilst Da Vinci's work was ahead of his time. Tonight I'll be talking to you about 2 points. Firstly, the works of Banksy and Da Vinci differ fundamentally in intention. According to the University of Tennessee, Da Vinci devoted much of his time to studying human anatomy and developing a deeper understanding of the world around him through science. His works were based on his desire for knowledge and aimed to depict human life and emotions by using both scientific observation and artistic skill. His 1490 drawing, Vitruvian Man, depicts the perfect man, based on proportions of human anatomy. According to Britannica, its intent was not to provoke debate, but to simply expand human knowledge. By contrast, Banksy's art functions as a tool for social critique and political activism. The Guardian notes his main criticisms target war, capitalism, consumerism, and authority. However, these remain subjective and open to interpretation. For example, his 2004 artwork, Napalm, shows a distressed Vietnamese child alongside Mickey Mouse and Ronald McDonald, critiquing how consumer culture diminishes human suffering. It clearly displays his politically charged intent, which contradicts with Da Vinci's, whose work was driven by a pursuit of knowledge and universal truths, rather than social or political protest. People of Da Vinci's time knew his works advanced knowledge. Banksy's are not about knowledge, however, so comparing the two is simply unrealistic. Because of this fundamental difference in intent, the two cannot be properly compared. This leads me on to my second point, that Banksy's anonymity simply cannot compare to Da Vinci's due to his fame and respected identity. Leonardo da Vinci was openly known and admired across many demographics, such as nobles, religious institutions, wealthy patrons, scholars, and artists alike. He worked under powerful patrons like the Duke of Milan, for whom he painted The Last Supper for, one of the most famous religious artworks in history to date. He was also later appointed as the first painter, engineer, and architect to the king, and lived in the Clos du Chay in France by royal invitation of King Francis I. Leonardo da Vinci was trusted by the highest level of government, indicating his influence and importance to society. His open identity meant he was recognized as a Renaissance polymath, where his opinions and designs directly shaped the thinking of rulers, scientists, and religious institutions of his time. His impact was not only artistic but intellectual. According to the University of Montana, Da Vinci believed sapere verde, or the art of seeing, unlocked the world's secrets. This ability to connect different fields of knowledge and share them with a wider audience shows how his work moved beyond painting into science and engineering. By contrast, Banksy's anonymity limits his impact in the present. While popular with the public and art buyers, his influence is limited to spectacle and reaction, whereas in his time, Da Vinci shaped institutions, policies, and scientific progress. A particular example of this was during the shredding of the girl with a balloon at the Sotheby's in 2018. While this sparked temporary debate on consumerism, its influence was short-lived and driven by unstable media hype, rather than lasting institutional trust like Da Vinci's. Without a proper identity or credentials, Banksy's ideas cannot be properly recognised in scientific, political, or even academic contexts as Da Vinci's were. So, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, Banksy fails to compare with Da Vinci as the intention of that works differ entirely. Da Vinci's was an endeavour of knowledge versus Banksy's being a pursuit of protest. If nobody even knows who you are, you simply can't be the Da Vinci of your time. So this is why Banksy is not the Da Vinci of his time. Thank you.
I call upon the third affirmative speaker, Yang Hao.
Good evening, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. The topic for debate is that Banksy is the Da Vinci of his time. We, the affirmative team, believe that this statement is true. Before I summarize our team's case, I will first point out the flaws in the opposition's argument. Ladies and gentlemen, the negative team is attempting to adjust the scope of the debate. We want to emphasize that the topic of the debate is that Banksy is the Da Vinci of his time, and our first speaker has clearly defined this as a comparative debate due to the use of the eponym. The topic is not that Banksy is not an artist or that Da Vinci is a genius. We will attempt to engage with the points presented by the negative team, but we want to highlight their approach limits the debate as they operate outside of the scope of the topic and our definition, which stands. The negative team's point that Da Vinci is a genius fails due to a list of shortcomings that plagued him in his time. Francis Bacon once described Da Vinci as the exemplar of unfulfilled promise. Da Vinci's genius is in his legacy, made up of sketches, notebooks, and unfinished projects, not a large body of completed works. To be precise, Walter Isaacson's 2011 book, Leonardo da Vinci outlines that he finished fewer than 20 paintings in his lifetime. Where da Vinci imagined endlessly, Banksy delivers. He has already completed hundreds of murals, installations, films, and interventions that directly impact the society we live in the same way that da Vinci's works have done. The second speaker from the negative team has stated that da Vinci is a genius and therefore no one can compare to him. Well, the choice of this debate topics proves otherwise. We're not stating that da Vinci is not a genius. Just as our first speaker has referenced, da Vinci was a polymath, the rare kind of genius that spanned disciplines. Likewise, Banksy is a modern polymath, not through his studies of science and anatomy, but through politics, performance, social media, and cultural transformation. In the digital, globalized, media-driven age, Banksy's blend of satire, spectacle, and anonymity makes him the only true equivalent of da Vinci's Renaissance genius. The second negative speaker has stated that Banksy is not a polymath like da Vinci, as he does not advance science. They're misguided, as polymathy is about applying creativity across a range of domains, not just science. Banksy advances social, cultural, and political thought using art to reveal societal truth. For example, his West Bank mural prompted global discussion on political oppression in Gaza almost 20 years ago, before the conflict in the region became news in the West, proving that he is, in fact, ahead of his time. Leonardo da Vinci advanced science privately years after his death. Banksy advances culture publicly and immediately. Both artists are polymaths, both ahead of their times. The second speaker from the negative team has stated that Banksy cannot be considered the Da Vinci of his lifetime because his work is temporary. We would like to remind them that in his lifetime, the age of internet, an image lasts forever, and temporary street art pieces are just as enduring as a masterpiece framed in a museum. The second speaker has stated that Banksy is an attention seeker, unlike da Vinci, who has not sought social commentary. This does not take into account that da Vinci was well owned in his own time for being unconventional in ways that drew attention. According to Vasari, in his book, The Secret Lives of Artists, da Vinci exclusively kept the company of handsome young men. He never married, and he was a lifelong vegetarian, of all which were highly unusual for the time. Nicole explained in his 2005 book that would buy a caged bird at markets only to set them free. He also rejected dress standards for his time, preferring rose pink cropped robes to long formal robes. Both Banksy and da Vinci grab attention for rejecting conventions, further evidence that Banksy is the da Vinci of his time. The negative team imply we cannot compare the artists, as we do not know who Banksy is. This topic is designed to compare similarities between the artists' works and their impact, not their physical appearance or their formal names. We do not need to know who Banksy is or what he looks like to appreciate what Banksy presents. Accounts of da Vinci do not exactly provide us with a crystal clear insight into his identity either. Now that I have thoroughly dismissed the arguments presented by the negative team, I will summarize our arguments that Banksy is the da Vinci of his or our time. Nanako, our first speaker, discussed the artists as masters of their crafts. She presented Banksy as a modern polymath through his mastery of many disciplines, which makes him the true equivalent of da Vinci's Renaissance genius. She also explained how both artists made important technical contributions to their preferred art forms. Da Vinci made use of sfumato widespread, and Banksy's use of stencils and three-dimensional objects elevated street art, transforming it into a criminal nonsense into an accessible, legitimate art form. Our second speaker, Laura, addressed how both Banksy and da Vinci's works offer profound social commentary on their times. Using the examples of their works on war to reveal complex, layered meaning in each artist's message, She also discussed the intricate mystery of birth artists that demands audience attention. To conclude, we're confident that if Da Vinci is the greatest of all time because of artistry, his innovation, and his impact, then without a doubt, Banksy can be considered the Da Vinci of his and our time. Thank you.
I call upon the third negative speaker, Rebecca Lenzilli.
Good evening. Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. The topic for tonight's debate is that Banksy is the Da Vinci of his time. We, the negative team, believe that this statement is absolutely false. I will now rebut the flaws in the opposition's arguments. The affirmative team has falsely argued that Banksy is the Da Vinci of his time because both were leading experts and polymaths in their field. Banksy is just a figure in the street art, while Da Vinci led across multiple disciplines such as painting, sculpture, engineering, anatomy, and invention. The Britannica Encyclopedia emphasises that Da Vinci epitomised the Renaissance humanist ideal, inspiring generations of artists, scientists, and engineers, with his artwork in awe being over 500 years old and still relevant today. Banksy's influence, although culturally significant, is limited and lacking the multidisciplinary leadership of Leonardo da Vinci. That is why Banksy is not the Da Vinci of his time. The affirmative team has claimed that Banksy is like Da Vinci because both were able to revolutionise art. While Banksy does dabble in graffiti, installations and exhibitions, Da Vinci's cross-disciplinary work has spanned through art, anatomy, mathematics, engineering and physics. His inventions and anatomical sketches and architectural studies have shaped modern technology and medicine in his time, which have impacted society. Banksy's cross-discipline engagement is comparatively shallow, confined mostly to art and political commentary. That is why Banksy is not the Da Vinci of his time. The affirmative team has falsely argued that Banksy and Da Vinci both serve as social commentators. While Banksy paints a picture of injustice, of war and politics, Da Vinci has reflected his society through both artistic mastery and scientific inquiry, fundamentally changing how humans understand the world. According to the Museum of Science, Da Vinci's observations of anatomy and natural science influenced multiple generations, whereas Banksy's social critique, although impactful, is primarily cultural and temporary for the modern person. That is why Banksy is definitely not the Da Vinci of his time. The affirmative team have wrongly argued that Banksy is the Da Vinci of his time, as they both have universal appeal. However, Banksy's work is limited to controversial and political issues and not science, which actually narrows the scope and influence. In one of Banksy's most recent artworks, it depicts a judge beating a person involved with the Palestine protest. According to the BBC, the impact of this artwork remains limited because the London police have already covered the work with large sheets of plastic and metal barriers, limiting its influence. Da Vinci's art is kept in museums, celebrated and has remained relevant for over 500 years. That is why Banksy is not the Da Vinci of his time. The affirmative team has stated that Banksy is the Da Vinci of his time because even though they both remain mysterious, Da Vinci's works were only found later, after his time. However, according to the Science History Institute, people of his time did not question Da Vinci's identity, but rather questioned his unfinished works. On the other hand, Banksy's mystery comes from his identity, not his art. He uses his secret identity to create public fame, but not in the same way Da Vinci was known. and made these contributions by being a scientist, artist, engineer, and many more, who was way ahead of these times. The impact that Da Vinci made in his lifetime cannot be compared to, even on this day and this society, even by Banksy. That is why Banksy is not the Da Vinci of his time. Our first speaker has strongly argued that Banksy is not the Da Vinci of his time because they have worked differently and were involved in different practices. While Banksy worked off pre-existing mediums, Da Vinci worked way ahead of his time and on a variety of mediums in art, engineering, and anatomy. She also correctly argued that Da Vinci has a unique and individual artistic style. Da Vinci has created masterpieces, whereas Banksy has only used pre-existing mediums to criticise pre-existing ones. Our second speaker has rightfully argued that Banksy is not the Da Vinci of his time because these objectives and legacy are very different. Da Vinci's work was for the purpose of understanding and documenting the world through scientific and artistic pursuit, and Banksy's intentions are for the most part unknown. The two artists have vastly different styles, ideas, and objectives. Da Vinci's legacy is far more enduring, and the impact he made to our society today is uncomparable. And Banksy still remains an anonymous street artist. So, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, we, the negative team, without a doubt believe that Banksy is not the Da Vinci of his time. Thank you.